What up, guys? Welcome back to Bryan and Bryan TV. Today we're going to be talking about what's going on at the Crowley Ranch. Well, with the Crowleys, really. And then we're going to talk about a blog that I released a couple days ago about our top priorities. And it's funny that we put these two things together. It was surely by accident because the Crowley stuff just released today, but it kind of flows really well together. With me, we have Bryan. How are you
How
doing
you
today,
doing,
Bryan?
guys? Yeah, the Caroli article, the that coupled with Larry Nasser's boss at MSU getting arrested, and then the priorities. It was kind of an accidental, natural flow into the show. But yeah, I feel for the Carolis and all that they're going through, but I also have to take pause and you have to think, okay, this went on for so many years with so many people. How could people not have known at some point on some level? And if you're an owner of a facility that is being used, there's I understand things go on without your knowledge because it's a big, I mean, it's a ranch. I mean, if you've been out there, the place is massive and the buildings are separated and all that. But we're talking about what, 20 plus years of Nasser doing stuff. I know the ranch hadn't been around that long, has it? I don't have to think about that.
Yeah,
But
it's been around a while.
it's been around a while. But I think Nasser started this before, before the ranch. So at any rate, yeah, a very interesting story. Yeah, get over to it's on CNN.com. It's a really good article, really interesting. You have to couple that, Bryan, with our last message from the fearless leader at USA Gymnastics, Miss Perry, who was very unenthusiastic and unenthralling with her message that she read off a teleprompter and delivered to us a day late and a dollar short. But yeah, it's all interesting stuff, and it leads right into, hey, what are their priorities, and do they match with your gym?
I don't know. I don't know what their priorities are. But my priorities are pretty well outlined here. We've used the same priorities in our gym for as long as I can remember. In fact, when I was an athlete, these are the same priorities, and oftentimes those priorities may get shifted around a little bit due to what's going on, with this competition season or whatever. But for the most part, they stay the same. So the priorities are in this order. So first, family; second, faith; third, school; and then fourth is gymnastics. Do you agree with those?
Yeah, actually, I do, and it's interesting because we look at those priorities, and then when I was doing and when I do business coaching, I help people, kind of get clarity around where they're going with their gym business. Then, what I sit down is ask them what are their 5 to 7 core values,
Hmm.
and your priorities and your core values usually align pretty closely, almost identically, actually. And what's interesting is a number of people come up with different things, and then as we discuss them, they change those words. Those words migrate, and they come up with something similar to what we've outlined here. And these aren't the only. I mean, your priorities in your gym may be different than they are in
Yeah.
someone else's gym. And what we're given is just, hey, this is something that we use as a guide for us. And like you said, you change your priority around a little bit in the numbering or where they fall in order based on the competition season. But for the main, part of the year, they stay in a line. And funny story, I was working with a personal development guru doing some marketing campaigns with him, and we were going over the 5 core values of the company. And every meeting that we had, that was the first thing. First thing he did every time we had a meeting was everyone had to repeat the purpose statement,
Hmm.
everybody, and he had to get it right, word for word. And he was a real stickler on it. And then you had to know the 5 core values. And for a while, the profit, he had one that was profits, and profits was like number 4.
Hmm.
And I can't remember all of them in order because it's been about 2 years since I went through that. But he had his and profits was number 4, and sales were always on the main agenda. Like we always went right to the main agenda. And what he did is he stopped in the middle of one of the meetings. He goes, "This isn't aligned right. These aren't in the right order." And he moved profits to number 2 and moved number 2 down just one notch. it was amazing the mindset of all the salespeople in the organization once the priority got moved up or the
Mhm.
core value got moved up, that we were really seeking more sales and we really weren't seeking just giving out free information.
Hmm.
And when you look at what you've put out with priorities there, you know, school, you put school in there, you put faith in there, you put family in there. And I think some of those things get forgotten when you get focused on just the gymnastics. And
Absolutely.
people are easy to get. I mean, it's really easy to get stuck on and just get that tunnel vision of I've got to get in the gym. I've got to do gymnastics. I've got to get better. I've got to make it to regionals. I got to make it to nationals. I got to make it to USA championships. I got to make a team, and forget that you have a family, you have a life beyond gymnastics, because gymnastics is about that long of
Mhm.
your lifespan, the one little short season in reality. And if you don't focus on those other things, you're gonna have a problem.
Well, and once the kid says, "I'm a gymnast, I'm a gymnast, I'm a gymnast," and then all of a sudden they realize that maybe I interest somewhere else, and they have all their family and their friends, their teachers at school. Oh, that kid's a gymnast. That kid's a gymnast. That kid's a gymnast. Could you imagine the heartbreak and how difficult it is for a kid to leave a sport that they once loved, but they have another passion somewhere else? And they have all these people go, "Why'd you quit? Blah blah. You were so good. Blah blah. This is what you wanted to do. You were so awesome at it." It's very difficult once you have somebody just indwell their identity in gymnastics or another sport. It's very difficult to move on from that. And I know I suffered that when I was a gymnast a little bit. I found my identity. Everybody thought everybody's like, "Oh, you're going to go to the Olympics one day." I was like, "Probably not," because have you seen those guys? They're insane. Um, but it's very difficult. You spend so much time in the gym, and some coaches are very tolerant if you want to take time to, you have some family member in town. Some are not. You know, some people, if you have something going on at church and you want to go hit something at church, some coaches are pretty nice about, and other coaches are like, you don't need to, you need to train more than you need to go to that church. So,
Well,
uh,
and I think that's kind of what we're trying to give everybody, and business owners too. The gym owner, look at what you do with your staff. Um, it's gymnastics takes a lot of time. It just does. It's one of those sports that's a time suck because you can't become good at it without doing the numbers. And you can't do the numbers unless you spend the time in the gym doing the numbers. So, the family gets lost many times. And there's a lot of coaches, myself included, that got caught up in being great at gymnastics and forgot about family and everything else. And there's a price you pay for that when you get down to it. So I think what we're doing here is kind of helping people take pause as we're heading into regionals. Regionals next weekend, and where do your priorities lie? Have you sat down and thought about what are the priorities of your program, your gym? How do you want the culture of those priorities to play out in what you're doing with your programming? Because these kids, like you said, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, we put a lot of pressure on these kids. These kids put a lot of pressure on themselves, and sometimes mom and dad put more pressure than anyone put on them. And when you're looking at it, and they go, "Well, I like gymnastics. I really like gymnastics. I really like doing this, but I don't love it." And
yeah.
there's a lot of kids in our sport that like gymnastics, but they don't love it, and they're
Mhm.
pushed by outside forces to be better than what they're anticipated being, which
Mhm.
is what coaches are supposed to do. But the flip side is, what do they leave behind,
Yeah.
or what do they miss out on?
We I think in this sport, if you've been around for at least probably a year, you probably don't even need to go through a full season before you have a serious conversation with a parent and an athlete in a closed environment. Um, we have parent and athlete meetings all the time, and oftentimes I have to list out the four. You know what I mean? You got to have your family, you got to have your faith, you got to have your school, and then you got to have gymnastics. And if one of those priorities is in the wrong spot and we're thinking gymnastics is number one, then I'm sorry, I think you're at the wrong gym. I think you got to understand that your family and your faith and your schoolwork is way more important than any of this. And setting that tone very early on in the gymnastics career kind of allows them to develop properly. It kind of says, "Hey, gymnastics is something you do; it's not something you are." And whenever problems come up down the road, you can look at them and go, hey, if you take this right here, I'm just going to let you know it will have an effect down the road. It will have an effect with your gymnastics. I'm not saying no. I'm going to let you guys make a decision. I'm going to let you talk with your mom and dad and say, hey, I'm going to go on this trip. When I come back, I'm going to be 2 weeks behind. Um, I just want to make sure we're okay with that. And, more often than not, the kids understand it. If you give them that little bit of rope and you kind of say, hey, here are going to be the repercussions of you missing this much gym, they come back and they go, well, maybe it's not worth it right now. Maybe I can wait. I can take a different trip later on. I can finish my season out, and then I can take a vacation pretty early in the summer.
Well, and that's what that's part of the purpose of this show is helping people, create better human beings by educating them on, whether, especially the guys we work with. We're 20 plus hours in the gym with these guys, so we have to take some ownership of kind of guiding them through certain things, and that um, helping them make choices is a big part of it, and working with the family to help them make choices is a big part of working with mom and dad to make sure that, hey, we're doing the right thing for the athlete, and then also helping mom and dad make sure they're doing the right thing for their kid.
Exactly.
And
Sometimes
sometimes,
we're advocates for the kid.
yeah, and sometimes the parent has to also take pause and just step back and go, okay, I really wanted this for them, but maybe I wanted it more than it was needed to be. Maybe I wanted it more than they wanted it. Maybe I wanted it more than the coaches wanted it. Maybe I need to let them have a choice in doing some of this stuff and be kids and enjoy life.
Exactly.
So, priorities, it's tough. USA Gymnastics is looking at what are their priorities. I don't know what their priorities are. CYA.
Yeah, restitution.
Yeah, CYA and restitution. That's about it. And doing the same old, same old, same old with the same old people, I guess. But hey, that's what we got to live with. Bryan, the other thing we talk about, and we talked about it last show, and just to reiterate, we have a couple of sponsors on the show. Canaway is one of them, and Canaway is kind of helping people look at how they, fuel their body, how they, take care of their body, and maybe looking at an alternative to taking all of the aspirins and the Advils and the Tylenols and the Aleve all the time, and getting on a more natural substance that will, help alleviate the inflammation and build and heal their joints in a way that Advil and that doesn't do. And really suggest that people take a look at Canaway. We have a link up on the video at the bottom. You can go check that out. The products are great. I had them at H&I. They were phenomenal. You can always get Mike Calderwood on the phone, and he'll educate you to all the products that they have and why they work, how they work, and the benefits of them. And I think it's really great that there's finally somebody coming out with some real solid research and real solid evidence that some of these other products, natural products, can actually work better for the long term than some of the quick fixes that we tend to lean on, especially the Advils and the Tylenols and all that. So look at canaway.com and check out the link down there, and see if that's something that you want to check out and get into. The other sponsor is Martech, and Martech's the people that built the GAT website, and they're helping the gymnastics community look at the web world a little differently. A lot of people spend a lot of money. I know that when we got into building the GAT website, there was a lot of things that we found that we saved some money on, and that's always a good thing. So Martech Collaborative, that is also in the links down below. So this is a great show today. I hope everyone is excited and interested in looking at their priorities and seeing where they lie. And then we're heading into the regional championships. It should be a good meet. But what are we pushing the kids to do? Are they on board? Got to look at that.
Absolutely, guys. Well, you guys have a great weekend. I hope everybody gets some rest. I know we've all been coaching nonstop. And we'll see you guys.
2 state meets in a row.
That's right.
Back-to-back.
Well, the girls are like 5, so on the state. So
yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy?
That is insane.
Yeah, all pushing to get this one weekend off, and then we go right back to it.
Enjoy your Easter, guys. Have fun.
Yes, enjoy. We'll see you.